Viele Jahre habe ich geschlafen. Ich krieg die Nachricht, dass es Zeit wird, mich ans Licht zu tragen. Viel Eis, viel Kälte, viele Phasen der Trauer. 1 plus 2 plus 0, schwarze Aura. Ich weiß genau, wie es war in den Kindertagen. Heute digitalisiert das Biest unsere Straße.
Hallo oder hey yo, hoffe euch geht's gut. Krasse Zeit. Eher traurig, Leute wollen mir immer noch sagen, ey Marc, ey, du bist so ein Spinner, jetzt echt mal, du bildest dir da was ein. Gucken aber nicht hin, was ich zeige. Hören mir nicht zu. Ich denke, fuck off. Was muss mir noch einfallen, um euch zu erreichen? Und dass da was am Himmel nicht stimmt. Und das ist so deutlich. Aber ihr guckt einfach nicht hin. Braucht eine Umarmung.
ends. It just never ends. I'm trying to get to the Geek Fest, where we're literally going to go over all of physics, from light particles to subatomic particles, all the way up to things that are in outer space. And what happened was I was getting a bunch of little pictures about light particles and so forth, and I ran into the Einstein ring, which I had forgotten all about years ago. I was looking into them because, you know, they claim it's a galaxy on top of a galaxy. It's not. It's absolutely not. And I thought maybe it could be something to do with actually particles in space. Now, what I have found, the other things that are in space are just phenomenally, unbelievably large and totally unexpected, as is MUDFOSSIL, which they just came back with a sample from. I'm going on in a minute. But this is the key right here. So, boom, Geek Fest stops, and I focus in on this, which to me has exactly the properties of dipole electron molecules and atoms. Exactly identical to the properties I would expect of an atom, not of something out in space. And here's where it came from. This is, it was a shot of some galaxies and so forth. These are the Webb telescope. When they went out there and started taking all kinds of pictures, and the pictures are nice. I like the pictures, but the pictures do not represent distance. They think there's no particles in space, there's no fields. All that's nonsense. The total saturation of particles and fields in space, which slow down light, so they're not being pulled away because expanding. It's being slowed down because it's slowing down. It's very simple. And I can show light has different speeds. All of this stuff I was going to throw in at the Geek Fest. And then, boom, I hit this and I said, whoa. Interruption of Geek Fest. Well, I got to, you know, this is my problem. I am too fragmented. I have too many things on the plate at one time. And I can't go from the potatoes to the meat to the salad to the this to the that to the boop to the boop. And I all of a sudden stop and start eating one thing at a time. But what are you going to do? It's just, it's too complex. I need a way of formulating this to where it's edible, so to speak. Right now, it's just, it causes a little indigestion for most people. Okay, my friends, it just never ends. I was getting ready to do the Geek Fest with electricity and magnetism and motors and generators and inertia and energy and all that stuff. And I was also going to do about Pistis Sophia and about the light, and everything was about the light. Everything is about light. So I decided I'm going to grab some pictures of light and so forth, and boom, the Einstein ring pops up. And it just, I forgot all about that. Whereas here it is right here, look at this. Now, Pistis Sophia, it talks about going into the light of lights and doing the treasury of the lights and so on. That is not just, they say this is the shadow of a galaxy on top of a galaxy, making it look like something special. No, that is something special. Now, I'm going to get into this, and this, I'm preceding it because I got into it and I showed all about the structure and how the different colors and the intensities of light and so forth. And that, to me, is a molecule or an atom. That's what I'm seeing. Now, again, I was going to get into the Geek Fest, but it sort of, then there was the Gnostics, and then it ended up being a ramble. Because the things in space, they can't pay attention to what they find. They brought back this stuff. This is biology they brought back. It's here on Earth. They know it's biology, and they just can't accept it. They just cannot accept it. And I will show you this in so much detail, and here it is right here, Boulders and Beyond from MUDFOSSIL. Billions of dollars, well over $1 billion spent, and they came back with this heart muscle right here. And that's what it is heart muscle. And the same stuff is up on Mars. You see this here? This is heart muscle. And there's a heart muscle victim here on Earth. Now, I show all this stuff, and again, it got into a rant and a ramble and so forth, but I find that that's the way I learn the most, because I did discover a couple things just even today that I hadn't considered. As you start rolling down the road, after you do the same road enough times, you realize, wow, I missed that, I missed this, I missed that. And then all of a sudden, a lot of the stuff starts to fall into place. These are the membrane layers. These are the sarcomeres. They are the exact same thing they came back with from MUDFOSSIL. These are the membrane layers. These are the sarcomeres. Not hard to understand. These are the muscle fibers. Now, I'm going to show all this in great detail, and my brother's coming over, so I got to get out of this. Okay, I'll talk to you later. But it's gonna run for quite some time about a little bit of a ramble. But it's all right, let me just start this off by saying I was going to do the Geek Fest about electricity and magnetism and light and heat and energy and all that stuff. And so I went to get some pictures of light. And I saw the Einstein ring, which is this right here, which I'd forgotten about. And this is way out in space. Now, at the same time, you guys know I'm doing a Gnostic text about, the universe. What's the universe made of? Who's Pistis Sophia? Who's the invisibles? All of that stuff is just stunningly complex. But when you see things like this, and you see the explanation they give for this, they say, oh, that's a galaxy behind another galaxy, making one galaxy look like it's something it's not. No, it's not. It is something it is because it is what it is. And I'm going to go deep into all of this. But you can see all of the energy fields. The intense is in the center, less and less and less and less and less. That is exactly what dipole electron flood theory predicts, which is the new model of the atomic model. And I have shown, well, I'm going to show it again, I'm sure today, all of the different aspects of light, how light forms a wave, but it's a particle, and how it can accelerate, and how it manifests itself, and how it is a particle, and how it's made of black and white particles, and how it flows through the air unseen. And then all of this stuff in space that we don't understand. We don't understand literally anything at this moment. And when they came back from Bennu, they came back from Bennu right here, which is a heart. That's a heart valve right there. That's a heart valve right there. And that is another one right there. That's the aorta. They went down there, grabbed a chunk of that. They came back with it. I knew it was going to be a heart. I knew it was blood, but I couldn't believe it when they came back. They actually had muscle. They went deep inside and grabbed it. And that's muscle with layers of sarcomeres. This is a membrane, phospholipid membrane, phosphate. Phosphates, sarcomeres, phosphates, sarcomeres, again and again and again and again and again. And here's what the sarcomeres are right there. And they are the exact same phosphate layers and sarcomeres as is on heart attack victims here on Earth. Right there, phosphate layers, sarcomeres. Now, again, I've gone over these things many times. People say, oh, you keep going over the same thing. Well, as soon as people start to talk about it, well, we're off the case, and then I can sit back and watch. But until then, you're going to have to keep hearing it. And I go through about Mars and all that. Don't give me them nonsense about there's no Mars. We're going to get into all this stuff. And then we're going to go back to Pistis and all the other things that are just not understood. There's nothing understood anymore. It's just absolutely incredible. And there is no appetite to understand anything from either side. You can show all the evidence you want to show. If a person's got an attitude, that's it, it's done. And then they will attack you with arrogance. No, you're an idiot. You got to read page 27. And it comes from both sides. Page 27 in a religious text and page 27 in a scientific manual, the same thing. You read it and you repeat it, or you're just an idiot. No, I look, I think, and this is what you're going to see. If you want to think, you think with me. Okay, my outstanding friends. Okay, my outstanding friends, I am getting closer and closer on Pistis Sophia to try to understand this. And something that was very interesting, I just thought about moments ago, was that in the Gospel of Thomas, one of the statements is, search and don't stop searching. Basically, don't give up until you find. If you're going to search, you better really search. You can't just search and say, oh, I figured it out in 10 minutes. No, it doesn't work that way. And it says, search until you find. When you find, you will be disturbed. I mean, literally disturbed. And then you will marvel. And that, so far, all of that stuff, literally everything I'm seeing is coming true. And it's not just the Gnostic text. It's all the ancient mythologies. They wrote truth. They wrote history. Mixed in with all this mystical stuff that to us just doesn't seem possible. It's impossible. But when you start to see the giant creatures and the body parts that are in space, and I mean, it sounds insane, but it is a fact. If you can't deal with that, you can't search, you can't deal with reality, you're going to have a problem. Your whole existence and my whole existence, as far as I'm concerned, is here to learn about reality, however crazy it may seem. Dragons, giants, gods, battles in the heavens, eternity, planets that are living entities, that are creatures that have emotions. I'm getting deep into this, and I'm going to recap as I go along because it's so complex that you can't just pick up in the middle of it and say, okay, here we are, and everything's fine. No. And you can't just do this quickly. This is a very, very deep, long understanding of what our reality is. If we could, how close can you get to understanding it? As I see right now, I have found nobody that's even anywhere close, and as I am not close either. I'm not saying I'm ahead of anybody. Trust me, I am in the mud with everybody else, trying to figure out. And there is a point you're not going to ever figure out anymore. Nobody ever knows where God came from. I can't even imagine how God would know where he came from. He's just there one day and starts making things. How would God say, where did I come from? Well, we say I came from my mother's womb. Well, where did she come from? Well, she came from her mother's womb. And when you get back to the beginning, where did that all start? Nobody knows. Nobody knows. And so don't go down that pathway, because it just leads to madness, literal madness. You cannot figure that out. Let's just take, something is running this entire operation, the universe. As far as I'm concerned, something has to be running it. As far as I found, 100% of everything is biology. And I'm going to just make a couple of statements today that I've been mulling over about us being bacteria and viruses. Because we can control the things that are around us. That's what bacteria and viruses do. Bacteria create programs, literal programs, and they ball them up in a little ball called a ribosome. They send them out through the body, and that is the chemistry that does chemistry so fast, it would take millions of years to do the same amount of chemistry as happens in 1 second because of a bacteria. It's an enzyme. So what is that bacteria doing? It's controlling its environment. It's control. It says, there's somebody trying to attack this guy. Let's go out there and kill him. Or there's some food coming in here. Let's go down and break it up. Or there's some trash collecting over here in the arteries, over in the wherever. Let's go clean that up. That's what bacteria do. They're living little creatures that are intelligent. As far as I'm concerned, extremely intelligent. And the programs that they write are an enzyme that can do more chemistry, like a chemist, in 1 second than would happen in a million years without that little piece of chemistry that came from the bacteria. The bacteria says, squirts it out, and there it goes. And they're tiny little things, and when it gets called on, there's a little trigger. It gets methylated, says, okay, turn on. It pops out like that, and it's so elegant that it causes half-life within fractions of seconds that would take up to millions of years, even billions now they found. It's just staggering, the ability of matter configured into viruses and bacteria. They are literally, they do everything that's done on this planet right now. They do everything that's in you. If they weren't in you right now, you'd fall over dead. Right now, you're dead. No enzymes, you're dead. That to me is a pretty important component of life, is the enzymes. And they are from bacteria. We have thousands and thousands. We have about 75,000 bacterias, apparently at least, because there's 75,000 apparently known enzymes. And the bacteria are the only thing that creates the enzymes. Enzymes are so elegant, they just don't pop out of nowhere. And they found all of these things in the sample they came back with from MUDFOSSIL, which is an asteroid in space, and it is a giant heart.